Kill a mic, just let me know.
We are live.
All right, we're live.
All right.
I think we'll start. I apologize, everyone. Unfortunately, we're still working on technology. I added some mics. They worked wonderful on the field. I was trying to add them into our StreamYard app so that we could broadcast. We're limited here at Pennsic, so we're trying to improve. Yeah, exactly. We're trying to improve our stuff all the time. We will make sure that we keep trying to improve the content we give you. So we are lucky again to be at Pennsic together. The best part is, I mean, to be able to be around some of the greats of the society at Pennsic all the time. I mean, last year I was in a bit of awe when I came here, and all of the great Western names I had heard were here, right? And so we wanted to bring it again. And we're a little early, kind of in the midday. There's a lot of activities going on. So we got maybe a little smaller crew than last year, but I have no doubt it's going to be a great conversation. Thorfinn, what are we talking about?
Today we're going to kind of an open conversation about the path of chivalry and how that's not the end. Making to knighthood is not the end of the path. In a lot of ways, it's really just opening the door and starting the process. And we have a lot of people here that have been knights for quite a while. We have someone here who's only been a knight for 3 weeks. And so we're going to see a pretty good cross-section of, I think, experiences. So does anyone want to start off with their experience on how the path was for them?
I'll take a shot at it.
Yeah.
I'm Count Rucker. I've been a knight since 2007. I won a crown in 2009, so I was 39. For me, the experience of growth has got a couple things going for it. One, the current king of the mid-realm is my former squire, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Papa pride there that goes along with it, and it's his second reign, so he's going to outrank me forever. Ego aside, the other aspect of it is that my son is also a fighter. He's 26 years old and is an up-and-coming unbelt. So there's a second layer of pride there. So there's that legacy aspect that I kind of hold close to my heart.
Yeah, I think when I started the SCA, I was around some of the original members that started the whole SCA. They were still active and fighting. My grandfather knight was knighted in year 6, I think, and then my knight, and then myself, and so just the three of us go all the way back to the very beginning of our lineage goes all the way to the beginning of the SCA. But I never really set knighthood as the goal. I was trying to be like William Marshall or something, right? And so I felt like I set all these goals that were unachievable. And so as I passed these, kind of steps in the process of on my path, I never looked back. I was always going, well, I'm still trying to be like William Marshall. And so I'm reaching for that goal. And that kind of kept me going. I never really felt that there was a stop. And I've seen people do that where they set that goal. And then once they get it, they're kind of confused. They don't know where to go from there. And so for me, it was setting things that I couldn't achieve ever. And so that way if I did get something, I didn't notice it. I honored it and loved it, but it wasn't like that's what I was doing, right? I was going there. And so it was kind of a really, it was a fun time too. Building your renown is a great part of your fighting career. Like when you're, starting out and you're building a name for yourself. It's really great.
Yeah, I think a big part, is, and I think you're 100% right. I think like the martial art community, we have a lot of people that set goals. And you're right on this right now.
Yeah.
You're on that cusp of you got to figure out what's next. You were like, hey, I want to be a knight. Maybe I want to win crown, right? Then you have another goal above it, right? My personal goal was I want to be able to win crown for 20 years straight anytime I want, right? 20 years went by a long time ago, but when you get that far past your goal, then it's just your life.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's going to be the big piece is sometimes we set goals, we hit those goals. There are a lot of first degree black belts, me including, that walk away.
Yeah. You see that with knighthood too, actually. Yeah.
So, the good part is we're sitting around the room with people that, how many years you got in?
39.
Awesome. Yeah, exactly. And right in the same ballpark. How many years?
Over just 31 now.
Yeah. How many years?
Oh, it's 2007, so like 18.
18.
29.
29. That's awesome.
7 years.
Awesome. So you got a new goal?
Become the best warfighter I can be.
There's the key. Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. What's your goal? You have to reevaluate. You're done with yours.
My goal is trying to get to knighthood, right? The goal is to like improve prowess, improve in your P's and Q's, right? Be a better person, right? But after getting to knighthood, the switch happened pretty. It was a stark contrast, and essentially, instead of the time I would spend working on my own prowess, it's a lot of that is now helping others with the prowess.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You know what? Oh, go ahead, babe.
It's a little bit interesting listening to other people saying that the knighthood was their goal, because for me it's always, I think it's best if it's your byproduct
Yes.
of your training.
100%.
You always have something that you want to work on with your fighting, you're trying to improve, and this and that. Every practice you find something that you want to work on, even if you're fighting something that's a lot less skilled than you.
Yeah.
You can always find things to work on, and if you're always finding things that you can improve upon, then you're going to continue to get better, and you're always going to be challenged.
Mm-hmm.
You can always find something else.
Yeah.
And if you're always doing that, then all of these goals will be byproducts of what you do.
Including, I tell all my folks, and and I want to de-evaluate, descale the specialness that the chain and the hat is, right? But it's like, to me, crown is a byproduct.
Yes.
These are things you find in the road on your way to become the best person you can be. Does that make sense? Right? Because because to tell you the truth, if it's your goal, we all know, we hear this all the time, that last 5% takes forever.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're saying, hey, my goal is way beyond that last 5%, it's my last 5% is way over there, you're just blowing through those things that you would like to have, those tokens on the way type of deal. And,
Yeah,
and it makes it much easier.
Yeah, I agree. That's kind of like I was saying, that's how I felt about it.
Yeah.
So
So you've had a lot of years.
Yeah.
How do you feel
That
about
was said very nicely.
it? You look much younger than me, so I mean.
I started in '81. I've been playing this game for a little while.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. SCA Knighthood has never been my ultimate goal. You know, it's nice. It's nice to be recognized because you put in all the work and all of those things. But my goal has always been knighthood, and that's a little weird to say in modern times, right? But my goal has always been the exploration of chivalry, the exploration of not just the history, but how does that actually fit into our modern times, and how do I continue to strive towards those ideals that we all aspire to, that we know we can never achieve, right? And so the prowess piece, I mean, that's integral to the equation for the knight. It's their
keystone, maybe.
Yeah, keystone. Right? You can't have a knight without the prowess, but in my view, the prowess is also the that which causes some of the other virtues that we aspire to rise to infinitely higher proportions, right? So you have somebody who is striving for nobility. The knight is sworn to protect. The knight is sworn to protect the innocent. The knight aspires to courage. The knight has to have the prowess in order to protect the innocent, and so it all kind of ties together. So my path, I've always felt, is kind of parallel in the SCA. There's the SCA knighthood track, but there's also just the knighthood track. There's the aspirational track to try to
be knightly,
understand and live an honorable life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's challenges to that too. For myself, after we reigned and stepped down in 2010, my kids were teenagers, and so their lives became much more important. So my wife and I stepped away from the SCA to a great deal. I mean, we still did some things. We mostly did Pennsic. We missed a few, but when I came back to start doing it seriously, I kept the idea of knighthood in a broad perspective, in my own personal life outside the SCA as well as I could. But it made it easier to come back. So, and even like, the foundations of prowess, I always kept talking, my joke is it's like riding a unicycle. There's no coasting. Yeah. Bicycles are easy. Unicycles, there's no coasting. So, but being able to reestablish that balance and to get back into the training group was easier when I came back to it. Granted, on a personal level, I had a little bit of a medical setback, which locked me out from being able to fight for a year, and then of course we had COVID, which knocked everybody out for a while. So, having walked the path to get to chivalry, and then having it, I don't want to use the word taken away because that's not fair, but having it, not being able to express it the way we like to, it makes it easier to come back to it when it's time to come back. So, my experience.
No, I think that's 100% truth. I mean, I think in some ways we see that. We see those people walk away sometimes. And it's hard, like when you haven't been there long enough that you're like, hey, I walked away, I feel bad. I mean, that's the worst part. It's like that, there's a fear. I mean, you have to have that fear a little bit of, am I doing it right all the time? Right? Yeah. You still have that fear, right?
Of course, 100%.
Right? And I'm sure you guys, how's that fear for you?
It's ever present. Speaking of, I don't think we actually went around and introduced.
Oh yeah, let's talk a couple of people. Go introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Sir Sheen of North Shield. I've been a knight for 3 weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
Killing it.
Knighted for Bastard Sword.
Oh, right on.
I'm Duchess of Tane from the West. Not a knight.
I'm Sir Yannick Viderson from the West. I've been for 7 years.
I'm Bronis. Most of you guys know me. Been around for a long time. So, again, thanks for watching.
How long you been a knight?
Oh, boy. 93? Okay, thank you. So
93 years. You are old.
Yeah, I am old. I told you. I told you. My footwork's crap now.
Duke Fabian knighted in 91 from the West.
All right, Rutger, you already introduced yourself, right? Yeah, I think the rest of everybody introduced.
And I'm Jarl Thorfinn, West Kingdom, knighted for just over 30 years.
Yeah.
So, Stephen Greenwood, West, knighted 29.
So, I guess we have a couple of topics. Let's start on the we're going to go from the beginning to the end, and the end can be really a long topic. But when I say end, that point where maybe we're thinking we have to hang it up a little bit, have to hang up the sword.
Yeah. Right?
Have to hang up the kit for whatever reason. But let's go from the beginning. I mean, 3 weeks. So you're a fully experienced knight now.
I'm told that.
And you get to judge everybody. And you should be wiping the field with everyone, right? You got that covered?
Those are the stereotypes, yeah.
I guess I got a question for you. Well, we talk about what's next, but if you look at the SCA right now, you already got to that place where they recognize the things you did. Where do you want to be next year? I mean, how do you want to use that for others, for yourself?
The biggest piece is just people who don't have a voice and people who are kind of lost in the cracks in the woodwork. Just kind of help get them what they need. So, yeah. Whether that's sparring time, materials, anything.
Support, any type of thing like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I guess my question to you is, do you feel comfortable as a knight yet?
Do I feel comfortable as a knight? No. No, I do not feel comfortable as a knight.
That almost never goes away, by the way.
Yeah.
I am curious.
Yeah.
How long was it before you felt?
That's what I was.
5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty recent that I felt really comfortable.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Grace?
I'm pretty comfortable.
How long did it take
That's
you?
a long time ago, right? I was lucky enough to win crown the following year after I got knighted shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, once you're crowned, then you have to be comfortable as a royal peer, right?
Right. So
And knighthood is just like, okay, it's like I trust the foundation there because I got something else to work on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes and no.
Oh, I'm still not comfortable as a knight because I worry all the time if I'm doing stuff right. In fact, I tell you, give you a quick worry about the worst one I had, and this happened maybe 2 years ago. I do a lot of training, and I was out training at an event, and I've been lucky enough to train a lot of women in the sport, and I had like 4 or 5 women break down in front of me. And I've had that before, and we can talk about that and stuff. But when you get to that point, you start kind of wondering. I'm like, am I a bad knight? Mm-hmm. Right? So there's that reevaluation thing. You always have to internally look. So after all these years, you're like, did I screw up? And I asked my wife, I'm like, can you help me? Because I want the truth. I don't want to go to them and ask. I wanted the truth if I'm doing something I don't recognize. And I just happened to be lucky enough to be at dinner, and 2 or 3 of them are there, and they all came over and said thank you, and and they were like, I really needed that, and it was so nice that you support all the things. I was like, oh, thank goodness, right? But that's a constant thing, right? Go ahead.
I want to interject on your comment about royal peer being comfortable and stuff. So then you're going to be comfortable as a knight. Because I have a sort of roundabout experience of that. As I became a royal peer first before becoming a knight, and I did win that crown myself. I was the consort, and then I got knighted afterwards. And I'm going to
give you a view. That way they can see who's talking.
Hi, this is Sadb. I'm the camera person today.
There we go.
So I did the royal peer thing first, and then became a knight. And I'm a year and a bit into knighthood now. And I will say I am far more comfortable as a royal peer than a knight still. That it helped, but it's not a 1-for-1.
No.
Like the royal peer did not override the uncomfortable knight thing.
I guess that just means we all have our own paths a little way, right?
Yeah. I was mentioning earlier that we all have common things that happen on our path, but we're all uniquely doing something different, right? So every one of us would say we all went to a lot of practices. We all sacrificed a lot of time and energy and resources in order to get to this spot. And so when we travel, you see knights that you've never met before, and there's that instant recognition and kind of connection. And this is something you'll experience a lot more now that you're a knight. They'll think you've been a knight for 20 years. It doesn't, you know what I mean? To them, you've always been a knight because they just met you just now, right? And so that carries with it all of that connection, right? And all that kind of history. And so that's a really cool and kind of a strange burden that we all carry too. Yeah, because we also all represent each other. Mm-hmm. So our actions, out there, over here, represent all of the knights. And so we can, personal failure can become the failure of the group in people's eyes. And so that's like I said, kind of a burden that we all carry now. And it's new to you. And I still feel the weight. I still think about it, like when I'm out there or here, I think, am I representing the order, my Western knights, as well as my friend knights from other kingdoms? So it's an interesting kind of glory and burden. So
I think it's important to circle back around to something that you mentioned about constantly learning. And if you're not learning and striving to get better and learning 2 new techniques and everything else, when you stagnate, you start falling behind and become less relevant. And so it's something that a lot of people don't think about.
That's hard.
And so if you've been out for a while and you come back, you need to make sure that you find out what's new, and you evaluate how you can incorporate that and how you can start teaching the latest and greatest innovations, because everything is built on top of each other.
Yep.
You know, the big fear I see people have is when they take those breaks, is they come back and their prowess is not where it was. And I think that I've seen a lot of fighters fall into the trap of, you know, fear of not being where they were, instead of and they kind of just fade away, and rather than say today is where I'm at and I can always strive to be better and do more, you know, but it's the fear that you're going to not be able to achieve that anymore, and I think that that's a little bit of an ego wrestle that people are having there, you know. And I think that if they were to set that down and say today is, you know, today's today, and maybe next practice I'll be a bit better, right, or closer to where I think my goal was. And so that's my advice to all the fighters out there that have an injury or take a break like that, or even as they get older and things are becoming harder for them to do, be aware that that's okay, that part is okay to say today is where I'm at, right? And you know, that's the night I am today.
So, well, to piggyback on that, there's a couple things to bear in mind. One is we're none of us are getting any younger.
In fact.
So, and the gap that I had was roughly-ish between my age of 43 and 53. So, you know, in that time period, one, I'm not working on my prowess. At the same time, my body is, you know, on the wane, at least it's supposed to be anyway, and I expect it to be. On a personal level, I also lost some weight, so when I came back to it, it was like, okay, I'm trying to throw these throwing shots, and like I don't have as much on them because
your technique's different now. Yeah,
the technique's different. So, you know, that comes into play. So that's something that we all need to recognize as well. That, you know, as you progress, you have to train differently. You know, Bronis has got that's an example of that. Your body changes, your body ages, and we're different. You know. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to give you any secrets here, Bronis, but you're only a year older than me. But he's done a lot more than I have, because he's worked on it more. Let's be honest. But we're all different, and you know, we all travel different paths, and so the results are going to be different. And you can't be discouraged by that either. You have to.
Correct. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the trick.
It's hard to avoid the comparisons.
Yep.
You know, especially based on personalities or occupations. Some of us think comparisons for a living. It's hard to break that paradigm.
Honestly, the Thorfinn said it. I mean, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think one of the primary barriers for that is the pride factor. That you were at this level, and now you're coming back at this level. You still have a white belt on. You're still visible to the world, and you don't want to reflect badly on the order. You also don't want to embarrass yourself, but that's just pride. And so I try to kind of focus everything through the virtues and the sins. And if I look at pride as a sin, which I want to avoid, and if I look at courage as a virtue that I want to aspire to, then that helps get over that hump of I'm going to embarrass myself. Well, but that's the devil on the shoulder talking. I want to listen to the angel on the shoulder. And
I really like that.
Do the right thing.
I like that perspective. I mean, I think that's super. I think if you step back and look at the reason why you're not doing it, right? Well, is that pride? Is that take a look?
It usually is.
It usually is. That's the biggest one. But is that it could be even? Are you self-doubting yourself? Self-doubt, right? That's another problem, right? And all of those you have to take a look at. Right. So, you got any doubt? You had a question.
I actually have a question for you guys. Some people, I imagine, might struggle with the shift of spotlight, so to speak. Because suddenly you're up in the unbelt, right? And then you get this award, and then suddenly the spotlight shifts.
No, sure.
Right. And like some of the support you had previously can kind of go away. This is something I was warned about, right? But I want to hear from you guys, like, who have lived through it.
I think you're probably closest to that. But you're just starting to live through it.
I'm just starting. There's still a little spotlight.
Yeah, you're right. The spotlight going away can be, well, for me, it was surprising. And I dealt with that by kind of reinventing my path a little bit. So our culture in the West Kingdom is very tournament centric, and I decided that I was going to renew my efforts more along the warpath, and that's what worked out for me. Yeah. Anyone else have thoughts on how to deal with that?
I personally, I'm bad with it, and I've told all my squires again, this is like, welcome to not being on the top of that ladder anymore.
You go from the top to the
It's
bottom.
hard to get there. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and how long you've been a knight?
Hi, I'm Viscount Fergus Ricard. I was knighted in the West about 12 years ago. About 5 years ago, I moved to Atlantia, so now I'm a proud Atlantean knight. I cut my teeth on many of the people here in this council, and so that's kind of my background. And speaking on the spotlight issue, I was talking with someone about that yesterday. We have a couple high-end unbelts in Atlantia that are on the cusp. And I'm warning them. I'm like, you're going to go from the belle of the ball, right? You're there. Everybody wants to fight you. Everybody knows you. Everything else like this. You are absolutely that pinnacle. To in a matter of a day, now you're at the bottom of the pole, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, it becomes a proving ground. How dare they, knight that guy? I'm better than that one, or whatever. So it is a really, really hard thing to lose that spotlight and still keep that drive of, I still want to do this, right? Because it is. It is an ego shock when it happens. And when it happened to me, it was an ego shock.
No, it was me slapping you.
Well, that goes back to pride a little bit, right? It's like, ooh, look at me. On the top, you have all the answers. That's pride.
Yeah.
100%.
And then all of a sudden it goes...
Then you get the slap, and that's a little bit of humility.
Yeah.
Or a lot of humility, depending, right? Depending.
But I mean, honestly, if you look at if you and everyone has a different way of looking at that, but this is just what works for me. And if you look at the goal is to aspire to the virtues and to deny the sins. When you start thinking about why am I feeling this way, I was the belle of the ball, and now I'm feeling a little neglected. When you dive into that, you can attach pride to that. You can attach some things to that, and I think, at least for me, that helped me go, this is an illusion, right? What I'm feeling, and it's honest and it's truthful feelings, but I'm still on my path. I'm still progressing on my path, and now I have a new opportunity because now I am more recognized, and my voice is going to carry a different weight, and I'm now the counselor to the crown, and all of the different things that come with the weight of the belt. And if you're still kind of on your trajectory to nobility, I think a lot of the pain of the loss of that, or the change from top of the ladder to the bottom of the ladder, it becomes noise in the machine, and you focus on different things, and it's easier.
And if I may jump off on that, I actually love that idea. We're all correct, and pride is a sin, right? It's one of the. At the same instance, though, it's something for me. I take pride in the fact that I try to be as helpful as possible. Mm-hmm. When I was the unbelt, right, I was being as helpful as possible. I was doing all the things that an unbelt should do. And then whenever I became a knight, there was that thing, and I'm like, what else? What is the new thing? Like you reinventing yourself in war, right? Exactly. What can I now get? And you can take some of that for yourself. You're right. I became a voice for the people that needed a voice. I became a counselor to the crown, right? That was really, really important on that path, and inventing yourself and giving yourself that ability to become that new thing.
So one of the other things that's been touched on and kind of skirted is sometimes you have your ability taken away from you through injury or something else. And so sometimes you age out, sometimes you have something taken away before you're ready to have it taken away. And then when you are able to come back from that, it's like, do I still have a place? How do I find my place again? And then you're trying to get your skill level back, and you're going to have all the new doubts. Do I still have something to offer? Am I still going to be able to maintain that? Has everything passed me by? And that is still something to be contended with. Wondering if the stuff that is new, the new techniques and the stuff that are coming out and being developed in the fighting, has that made everything that you've done before irrelevant as far in the teaching context? Mm-hmm. And I think what you can find is that sometimes it does take a while to find your place again, to get your footing. And even if there are new techniques that are out there and around, there's still validity in strong fundamentals, and you have a viewpoint that can still help people out on the war field, on the single field, and there's still advice that can be given in a timely manner that can help other people on their path. So you do have a place, but the more that you are able to and willing to put yourself out there, even if it's uncomfortable in that new position, can still be valuable.
Yeah, I mean, experience is experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we all get it in many different ways. You guys are going to have a much different experience. You already had a much different experience than maybe the experience you started, and much different than maybe a number of these people at the table, right? So your experience is yours, and that's a great thing. So, it is definitely something, and it doesn't go away. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong. I mean, there are times you have to evaluate and say, maybe that experience isn't something I want to bring up anymore. I mean, to tell you the truth, the beat people until they learn experience is something I don't want to bring up too much, because that's the way I was when back.
That's the way we were taught, yeah.
Right, but it's
getting rid of that.
getting rid exactly, and the great part is I think we're going that way. We're getting away from that, and so I think that's I think it just comes down to experience. One thing I want to point out before, and just for the audience real quick, is that we're talking about knights, but this goes for everybody. In the end, it really is. Everybody is working on being a better person, being chivalric, exemplifying the virtues, being a good society member. All of those are just as important. We all have our own path to get there. Some of those paths don't get to a belt or a chain. It doesn't make you any better or worse than any of those people.
Correct, yeah.
So I just want to make sure you have your experiences that you can share with others and grow from.
And I don't disagree with that, but I would offer one clarification, that just because we keep saying it and it makes us feel so good to say it, we're all getting older, so let me say it again. And the prowess piece is kind of the unique piece to the knight, right? I mean, the Laurels have their incredible talents and abilities, and the other orders, but heavy fighting is a young man's game, and I see a lot of gray, right?
Yeah,
it's a young man's game, and so I think it is a little bit different. I think as you follow your trajectory as a heavy fighter, because you know that the days are numbered. And one thing I would like to throw up, which is a question that just occurred to me that I've never asked, and I'm curious what people's thoughts were. And again, it kind of goes with what you were saying about top to bottom and how you deal with that. There's a great line from that old Fight for Fighting song, 100 Years, where he's talking about this, and he says, "Suddenly you're wise." And we talked about counselor to crown, right? And so you put on this belt, and all of a sudden you're supposed to be wise, right? You're supposed to have some knowledge from the mountain, right? From the mountaintop that you're going to bring down and you're going to share with people. And eventually, as you grow in years as a knight, you see more things and all of that. But I remember, it's difficult as a new knight. All of a sudden, people are like, give us the answer, and you're like, I'm the same.
Yeah, 3 weeks ago. Yeah, 3 weeks ago was a very,
Yep.
So have you had that experience yet, or does anybody want to speak about that piece?
No one specifically has come up to me and been give me the wisdom, the knightly wisdom, as it were, but it feels like I should, right? It feels more self-imposed. I feel like I should have more answers, and I think it's the recognizing that I don't, and being able to be like, I don't have the answer, but I know someone who does.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's a good fear.
But I'm still here to help you.
Yes.
I don't have the answer, but I'm still here to help you.
Exactly.
Let's figure this out together.
Yeah. Go ahead. Side.
I was like, speaking from the, instead of 3 weeks, cameraman shit. Speaking from the like year and a bit perspective into knighthood, when it comes to giving counsel to the crown, my experience as being crown and being a royal peer, I feel helps serve that a lot better. But more on the knighthood end, I have in the last year suddenly had way more of my fellow unbelt friends from when I was an unbelt coming and asking me for advice on fighting that they never asked me for before. Or, you know, how did you deal with this, that, or the other mental problem? How do I do this thing with this shot? How do I do that footwork you do, whatever it is? And especially when it came to more of the, like, mindset and how do I deal with this, that, and the other mental problem or emotional problem. Because I already was starting to feel comfortable with the training end on the technique just because I've been working with Brannis on Coach's Corner and doing stuff. So all these people are suddenly coming and asking like, these other more philosophical questions. And at first I had that feeling more like, I'm supposed to know this and I don't. And then as I actually started trying to answer, I realized I actually did have answers. Just based out of my own experience getting to where I'm at.
Yeah.
And so over the past year and doing that several times, talking to several different people at this point, I am starting to get more comfortable with like, yes, I do have advice, I do have something to offer here. And so we're like starting to ease into that comfort. Still a long way from being fully comfortable, but like I surprised myself the first time. I was like, I do have an answer, actually. So,
yeah.
It'll come.
Yeah.
Could that also be the fact that you had that answer before?
Mm-hmm.
You just didn't think about it that way. Now you're at that point where you're going, well, what would I have done then? And that is relevant. That is part of your path that got you there, that made you your knight, right? And that's the thing is each knight here, everybody here is their own person. They go about their things their own way, and we bring our own different ideas and concepts. You just now have been, right? And
people
now
weren't asking me
right,
before.
and now you're asking like, oh, I got to put this.
Now
into
they're
words.
looking for you and asking.
Yeah.
Because I've thought about this a million times, but I've never put it into words to somebody else.
Right.
Right.
And also, you've never been asked, right?
That's what,
and the big piece there, what
That
happens is, I think this is probably the best part, is that they're recognizing something in you that they feel is the same as them, right? And they're like, you did something I want to do, and you're like me, and now I have somebody to go talk to, and listen, you had the answer before. But now they're in that space where it's like, first, they can trust you. Second is, you made through something that, you still made it, right? And it's like, well, a lot of times you're like, well, I'm this way, I'll never do this. And that's not the truth. It's we all have different paths. And I think that's why it's the most wonderful thing is like, somebody might come to you and it's like, all right, you made it, and then you made that change. How did you do it? Because they get to see it. And I think it's really, really helpful for those that are, looking and sometimes not seeing somebody that they can say, that guy's like me. I get this all the time. They're like, that guy's short, so he should be able to teach me short things.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like medium short.
I think
Not short.
there's a confidence factor, and you use the word trust, which I agree with as well. And that is that internally we might have the answer. We don't have the confidence to believe that that's the answer. Well, it can't be that simple, right? On the other, the flip side of the coin is after you're elevated, then someone else has confidence that you have the answer. And that way they're able to extract it out of you in a way you didn't think you could do before. So that's part of that. They trust you, like Brian said.
Elevation is a hell of a confidence boost.
So, I know we're talking about knighthood. And
yeah.
I do think it's important to add that there are unbelts and people that are not knighted that also have a lot of really good advice.
They do.
Yeah, I just don't.
Everybody can have something that they can contribute.
Absolutely, right? But I just think that they're not getting the opportunity or the expectation that they're supposed to have that.
But even as a knight, I think it's important for us to go ahead and continue to listen to those people that haven't been knighted yet, because you get some really good nuggets.
Exactly.
From them if you open yourself up to that possibility.
You can then also take, and if you know someone that may have a relevant piece of information there that is an unbelt, to help them on their path.
Yeah.
Take somebody to ask you that question, and you may have that answer, but go, you know what? I think I know somebody that would help you out a lot. And one, it will help the person asking the question. It will help the person coming up, right, to be able to put those into words. Because that's the hardest part. Is we all have ideas, but having them come out of your mouth and have you get over that self-confidence issues that we all have of this is going to sound like I'm an idiot. Well, sometimes you give them that ability. Here you go. Can you help me with this?
You know, how I started doing that at my practices is now I tell everyone's a teacher here. Okay. So it's not a top-down class. Everyone here has maybe the way of saying something that someone else will understand. I think I'm explaining it very clearly, and the person just keeps looking at me like, I don't get that. But then
it isn't good enough.
Yeah. Do better, bro. but then maybe this other person can say it in a way that suddenly it makes absolute sense and clarity to that person. So I try to just make sure everyone has a chance to do that, to use that voice, so that they're not afraid to do it in the future.
Actually, I think you're helping them to really become more of a peer.
Yeah, that's well-rounded, right?
Yeah. You can't let your ego get in the way of your learning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or your teacher.
Or your teacher,
Or your teacher.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's it. Hey, we just because we're online and we have a few questions, and anybody can answer these, and we have more than one person. But Yolisha, who's a countess, and but she asked, she's like, "What do you have to give up? There's a lot of new responsibilities. What do you give up?"
Oh, that's a true.
I'm gonna think on that for a second.
That's a hard one, right?
Read the full text of the question.
All right.
It helps.
Lots of new responsibilities.
Helps it make
What would you give up to do all the new things?
Read the part before that.
I don't have it.
Oh,
What was the part
sorry.
before that?
I gotta scroll up and find it in the comments over here.
So just on that piece.
Oh yeah. Perspective is important. If knighthood/peerage alters your activities, i.e. more time on the field, events and fight practice, attendance, items you need to pack, etc., because it affects real-world life, time, schedule, energy, etc. So then, what will you give up to do all the new things as you are attaining that peerage?
So I have something I want to add to that, but do you want to answer it first?
I do have an answer.
Oh, good. Please.
The thing that I've thought about giving up more is the time I spent on my personal prowess is now spent helping others, but also just doing other things at different events. So that time I would spend on the field fighting whoever I could might be spent on the field still, but it might also be shifted to service of like being a marshal, being someone helping people check stuff in.
So I think we find we have a lot of inefficiencies in our life. We can't find time to devote to something. Maybe a little bit less time on TikTok and more on something else. But the other thing is, if you're doing more time for the martial arts or something else, you also have the other people that are important in your life, your relationship and whatnot. You need to find a way to make sure that stays healthy as well. Because that's the biggest
a hard one.
It really is. And if they're on board and are helping and encouraging you with this, that's great. But you still need to make sure that you circle around and make sure you still are adding time to those other things in your life as well.
Balance is important in all things.
Yeah. Another point was, and we're going to talk much deeper on this one, is knighthood is not a retirement, reward, right? It's like, but we've been in a place where we've knighted a lot of people on that cusp of that, right? And I think we had really for sure, and I don't know before these, but the 90s, early 2000s was an area where we required probably more than we had to give for others to come in. And really slowly with my kingdom, in my first reign, I knighted one person. Okay, I knighted 10 years later, I knighted 4 or 5 people. But a lot of times, it's like the average to get into the order now, 10 plus years. So, I guess, does anybody have strong feelings? Is that, do you see a change in where you are? Or is it, the good part is I do. I've seen newer people brought into our order. And sometimes I'm like, okay. But then I'm like, this is awesome because they're active in meetings.
Yeah, they've got that energy.
They have that energy.
Yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I've been really happy, but I do worry a little bit that we're pushing that out.
I worry that we're actually waiting sometimes so long that people, too long. I was knighted when I was 24 years old. And when's the last time we knighted someone? How old are you?
I'll be 32 in October.
Yeah.
How many
you're young.
From authorization to knight?
If you include the pandemic, it'd be about 7 years.
Yeah, that's good. That's a quick path.
That's a better number. How about you?
6.5 years.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So maybe we're getting better.
Yeah, maybe, and I hope so, and I hope that we can see like a way to help the younger fighters get knighted sooner, because, or also maybe we need to step back from thinking we are still the bar. I'm not the bar anymore. The bar is so far back there, I sometimes forget where it's at. And the thing is, we need to put ourselves in the position where we were at when we got knighted, and we look at it from that vision. Because if I look at it from all my fighting career now, very few people would be getting knighted, right? And that's not realistic. That's not what we're here to do, all right? We're here to make knights, not royal peers and dukes and all those things like that.
So one of the things I've done using a number of other orders is actually what I did when I was elevated to the laurel was I wrote down my standards, what they were then. And I periodically go back and check.
Yeah, evaluate.
Make sure they haven't cracked. Right?
Yeah.
And that's something we can encourage newer knights to do.
I'm honestly going to do that.
The moment you mentioned everybody have a pencil and paper.
Yeah.
But you can reference back to where was I on the panel, because you get in your plate for 35 years and I don't know where I was anymore. The only reason I know is I wrote it down.
That's clever. I wish I would have done that.
Yeah, I'd say.
So there's a certain amount of, what your perspective is, I guess. Okay, so I was a late starter. I got knighted when I was 40, and it took me 12 years. So because of that, I find myself being a more harsh critic.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good or bad? You guys judge. But the point is,
we judge.
Right. The point is that that is my perspective, and that's I have my criteria that I consider, and that's what I use when I provide counsel to the crown. But all of us have different experiences, and we're going to use that, and all that balance is how the crown gains its experience.
Yeah. Multiple opinions, I think, is
Right,
important.
absolutely.
So I think when we approach this topic, where we ask ourselves, why is it taking more time for people to get knighted? We have to consider things beyond their game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Modern economics are very different from that
1990s for sure.
decades ago. Young people have less money, less time, and that's going to naturally push out the amount of time that it takes to achieve knighthood. So
Absolutely.
I don't think that when we think about that, the primary cause is maybe a shifting bar or something like that.
So it's interesting. I'm not sure that it should take longer when you have all of the videos and all of the training aids and all of the stuff that you can use at your fingertips now. There's so much more out there that can help you along. So
Well,
I'm not sure that it needs to take longer. I think that
I can tell you one thing, though.
It's a physical thing. It's engaging one-on-one.
Oh, it is. But
Right.
when it used to be, you had to go and find the people that could help you, that could teach you now. Now you can go ahead and you can look at a bunch of videos online. You can watch the Coach's Corner. There's so many more resources to help you get better. Would wonder if you're applying yourself.
There's a competing factor there, though.
Yeah.
And that is, if you're going to be staring at a screen, a lot of people want to be active in what's happening on the screen. They don't want to be passively looking at the screen. So,
But also,
and that's a choice.
back
Absolutely.
to his point about economics and things being different. It's great if you have access to all of the training videos and things in the world, but if you're working 2 jobs to make ends meet and you're exhausted, you still don't have the time or physical energy to even walk out to your Pell and put in the amount of effort there along with those training aids and videos and things that it would take to get there. So everybody's individual circumstances is going to affect that, and I think to his point, there's probably more people in that bucket of working that extra job, just stressing about cash being tight, even if it's not eating your time, it's eating your mental energy.
That's a good point.
So like,
If you have a job that's
I think maybe that's helping
energy, and it's really hard to
even
pay
it out.
attention after that.
I'd also point out
more
that
training but less time, so it's still averaging out around 10
We
instead
used-
of getting even longer.
we used to have 4 or 5 practices a week, though, in a very close area. That's not the case anymore. So I lived in one of the largest metropolitan areas in California. San Jose was the 10th largest city in America, and there were no practices, right? And so when I was a squire, I could literally hit 4 practices a week and fight on the weekends. And that causes your learning curve to just be almost straight up, right? You know, if you do one every 2 or 3 weeks, you've got a very shallow but, steady growth. You add another one and you start to see that ramp just go like that. But we don't have that resource anymore. I find in a lot of places. Some places only have maybe 1 practice a week now, and it's maybe an hour away. And so that changes the time of how long it's going to take to get to that level of expertise, that 10,000 hours or whatever they say it takes, right? If you have to do 1 every 2 weeks versus, I was getting a year of practice on the average fighter every 3 months. I got an extra year on it.
Yeah.
So think about we were doing 4 or 5 a week. So it was very different world. I think that one of the things I wanted to come back to was talking about finding that kind of confidence. I noticed in the SCA is an organic thing, right? It has a life of its own, and people come and go out of it, right? And I remember being a younger person, and there would be these kind of elder statesmen, and they'd be standing around talking about fighting, and everyone would stop and hang on everything they said. Excuse me. Over time, though, organically, as they faded away, other people stepped into those spots, and suddenly there's people listening to you now. And you thought you'll stop and you'll look around and go, "Holy crap, I'm that guy now," right? So, but it just happens, and I think that's part of what this whole thing is that everyone has a span in the SCA, and a lifespan of an average person, maybe in the SCA is only about 10 years or more, right? Not everyone's a weird lifer like we are, but that's going to happen. It's just you will find that as you get more experience in this time, you'll just be in that spot and you won't even know you stepped there. So.
And we had a couple other comments that were good. One of them was, basically how jarring it was that different change. Now what do I do?
What am I doing?
And then he mentioned that one thing he does for people around him is like, all right, the next piece is like, what do you want to do now? Like you made some major change, right? You were like, hey, I'm driving for this, and now I want to shift to the thing I really enjoy doing, right? And I think that's a big point. So yeah, you shifted time, but it's something you can do. I think that's it. I had to make a shift at one point because I was not having as much fun.
Yeah.
And I had to look back and go back to why did I come here?
Yeah.
And like I had to let some things go that I picked up that was just filling time. Next thing I know, I was like, this is not fun. All my time is full. And I'm not spending as much time with my lady or whatever. And I was like, I peeled all that back and went to the foundational pieces of why I can do ESC.
Do the thing that you enjoy.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
when it gets to be a point where you feel like you have to do it, it's now your job, it's your obligation, and you're going that slog becomes so much more challenging just to have the energy to do it. So trying to find a way of doing something new and exciting for you, and still doing the training. So if you aren't doing things that are keeping you vibrant, and you're doing it just because you think it's an obligation, I don't think that you're going to last. It's going to be hard to continue doing what you're doing.
So we covered a lot when we're burning through some time, which is fun because there's been a lot of good comments. Let's talk about, when you do get a little more towards the end, or you think you are, or, it's like, ooh, these new guys, I can't keep up with them, or those kind of pieces. I'm sure you guys have a lot of experience. Anyway,
The other side of the room.
and the other side of the room,
The big camera pan.
that's it, right?
Don't stop on me. Don't stop on me.
I think I will, and I'll give the start on this. I struggled so hard that, I was in extreme pain, and I was still fighting, and I couldn't move my shoulder. But it was, at that point, I had already my left shoulder replaced. But I couldn't let go of this one. Right. And because I didn't know if there was anything after it. Because, lots of doctors, no. Nothing really on the internet and all those things about it. I fought until I could maybe throw one blow in a bout. I would out footwork these people until they quit. Or I'd throw that one blow and I was done because enough pain shot through me, I couldn't do anything physical. That's how far we go sometimes when we're sports. A gentleman at work actually gave me a book. It's called Strength is Strength. We do have that time where it's like, recall. It's a little slower, right? The good part
Why are you
is...
looking at me?
The good part is communication gets better. Some of the best scores for teachers are older teachers because they understand how to communicate better. They have so much experience, they can see that you're struggling, and they look for opportunities to help you. So we have to look at, maybe my strength is going from, and you see a lot of boxers that grind right into the end where they're 50 and now they're getting beat up. Yeah. And they're getting brain damage, and they're getting all of these things because they can't let go of the other piece, and they're just grinding their life away. Literally. That transition, right? Are you as good as you were 20 years ago?
No. Not even close. But I think what I did recently, I've decided I'm not going to fight in royal tournaments anymore. Yeah. That was my last one last year, and I'm completely okay with this because I found I wasn't finding the joy in it. Right? I love fighting. I love teaching fighting. I love war fighting especially, but I wasn't finding the joy out there. And so I'm a good enough fighter that I could beat people that want to do good in the tournament and they want to succeed, and that's unfair to them. So I decided to step out of that venue. But where do I go now? Because that was what I was kind of known for, right? But what I've done is I've tried to pick a different path now, and not unlike Yannick here, I'm focusing more on war fighting, but specifically the army. I'm trying to help build a stronger, better Western army, including we're trying to build a command corps and everything. And so that's where I'm trying to keep myself with my finger in it, and making sure that I'm still relevant. And it's hard to let go of that feeling of that you're not relevant. And in the SCA a lot, I notice that it's a "what have you done for me lately" type mindset. If you haven't won a crown or whatever, people, it's been 10 years since you won a crown. People are like, they're talking to the guy who just won the last one, and they're not asking for advice from you anymore. And it's funny. And so we don't have that kind of martial art thing where you walk into the dojo and there's a picture of a guy who's been dead for 100 years on the wall and everyone stops and bows to that guy, right? We don't have that. We should be remembering these grandmasters and that taught everybody and built the foundation of our fighting. And so that's kind of where, giving up that part and changing your path is important, and being okay with changing. And that's where like I said, I switched to the army idea. So I can still be doing something and teaching in the fighting community, but enjoying it and also, letting go of that part. So
what have you done? I mean,
Damn little.
Don't do nothing anymore.
No,
You had some transition. I mean, you're so young and all, I can see.
Now I'm really curious. I'm 62.
I know, you're older.
That's what I thought. So, a couple things. Some just functional, right? Bought a whole new kit. right? I'm a little guy. I get hit by big people. I break easier than big people getting hit by big people. So I cover myself in plate and titanium. It's expensive, but it actually provides some amount of longevity to be able to continue to play the game. If I went out in a t-shirt and knee pads like this ding-a-lang, right? I wouldn't be long for the field. So that's one thing. I think something else I've really tried to do, especially over the last couple of years, and is kind of maudlin as this is, I've tried to actually embrace the end of my road, right? And so I've thought, okay, so, and this was, a couple of years ago, so I was like, okay, I'm 60 years old. Am I still going to be fighting wars at 70? Maybe, but holy mackerel, right? So if I'm still fighting wars at 70, so in the West, we have our 2 Principality Wars, we have a couple of Inter-Kingdom Wars. This is my first Pennsic, so I have never been to this. And then there's some other things, but really there's kind of 4 wars a year, right? 4 times 10 years, I have 40 more opportunities, full stop, that I'm going to be able to do this. And I'm a member of the same fighting group as Thorfinn and Yannick, and I went to my guys, and I was just, look, 40 more opportunities for me to take the field with you, and for you to take the field with me. Like, let's actually try to come together and let's bring what we can bring while we can do it. So I've tried to be a little thoughtful just about the trajectory. I've tried to do a little bit of teaching. I spear, and so I do a little bit of spear stuff. But I've also, I had the wonderful opportunity and honor to be asked to be the counselor to the Queen's Guard for Thorfinn and for Tulia. And I found that to be a really rewarding opportunity just to kind of have these unbelts and give them reading material and talk with them about things and try to open up, kind of the breadth of the thinking. So I don't fight very much. I fight at our local Carpode tournament that's been going on now for 30 years.
Yeah, we're going to have an episode at some point.
Yeah, when we get back, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. So I fight once in a while there, but other than that, I just do war fighting. So I'm cognizant of the fact that I don't have a dish shoulder replaced. This one's now a mess. So I know that my hours on the field are limited, and so I try to pick and choose and get the best bang for the buck.
Anybody else feel like they're hitting?
So I had a enforced unexpected layoff for several years. Came back, tried picking up a new shield style, and it wasn't as easy as it could have been. And there was doubt in there. It's like, oh my God, is this beyond me? Should I step back? But I wanted to learn some of the new stuff that's going on. There's some of the mechanics that are happening, and I wanted to try to figure out what the pros and cons were of the new styles before I went out and started trying to say anything about the style that I used to teach. Wanted to find out what the new stuff was to be able to figure out what was still relevant. And there was one crown that I went back and I fought. It was like, ooh, is this it? Am I done now? Should I just give this up and hang it? Or should I go back to something that I already know? Maybe it's too late to learn something else. And it was challenging, but I think the process will make me a better teacher. I learned so much from having to come back. I learned going to later than just in depth. There's so many things that were eye-popping revelations because the last time I was trying something new was back in '87. When I do something new and trying to get comfortable with it, and then having to start that process all over again. It's really eye-opening, and so it kind of rejuvenated me as well. To wanting to come back there and have things to share and more of an aha moment. So, but having something taken away when you didn't think you were ready for it or the possibility of it,
that's hard.
That was kind of heartbreaking.
I have a little different path on that. Whenever I first started fighting, when I got going, I was much larger, right? And so my body took a huge pounding from just the amount of weight I was carrying. And then I lost a whole bunch of weight a few years ago and got a new lease on fighting, right? So for me, I was reborn in this concept of what could I do because I couldn't before. But at the same instance, all that time had passed. So I am in my early 50s now. And I realized that the damage that I took in those years and the damage that I'm taking now are multiplying themselves. And so what I try to do is I look around at all the people that are coming up, and I'm like, just like we've talked about before, I don't have the answer, or I may have an answer, but there are people out there that I believe we need to be building that next section. So I will take that home, my ability to know so many people, and give them the gift of training these people. And that's kind of where I've kind of refocused on what's going on, is how do I assist the people that are coming up behind me to become the people that will be the leaders next.
Yeah, I think the key here is that we're talking about this. Probably good for you guys at somewhere way down the road. But I think the best part is, like the book I read, Strength to Strength. You can hear that it's not that you want your glory days. You kind of know that those are tough. It's fun to still have once in a while. Not like the same way, right? You're not going into command to take those command jobs, are you?
No.
No, you're going into command to help.
Yeah, I'm doing it because
you're being a mentor. Yeah. So, I think the best part is the strength that we have with experience is the one that we are leaning into now to give to others. And that becomes really important, is that, the people our age have that scenario, and that we can continue. And that could be, hey, everywhere from the very bottom of, I've run an event before, would you like a little bit of help? I'll be your second, and any questions you have, I'm there for you. Because they've done it lots of times, right? And I think it helps us keep going. For me personally, after I had my shoulders done, I was like, every day is a gift. Every day in armor is a gift, and that's the way I have to look at it. Sometimes I get mad I can't do something, but I am lucky to be able to still stand on the field with my friends.
Yeah.
So,
do you ever say to yourself that you have all this information trapped in your head from all these years of fighting? If you don't get it out, it's a waste.
Yeah.
So I feel like I gotta teach people, because I have spent so much time training that if I don't share it, that knowledge is just gone. And I feel like I gotta get it out there. So maybe a nugget will catch with each person and it lives on. So I feel it's important.
Yeah, so, I would suggest, and the good part is you're already doing it right now. And you got a great mentor to help you along that path, right? And you're going to get experiences that are like motivational and all of those pieces, and those are things you're going to carry in a great part. You went and found that person. You're going to have the same thing.
Yeah, he literally went and found me.
You're going to find things.
He came to the barn
and
where Dad was like,
your strengths are
asked me to teach him to
help others in the future. You got a lot of years of transition there. But there is a point where you'll be like, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be winning because, everybody expects it. That's a hard place to live.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to come to Cleveland, actually.
I think they were capturing a few more comments.
I wish.
But, we got a great group of people. You guys have any other questions? It's...
I'm here to help answer whatever questions I can and give whatever insights I can.
Yeah, and I think this is an important place so we try to make sure we try to get a diverse group of people.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important not to sit in an echo chamber. And I love when non-fighters do this. Because, man, they come into it with a perspective that really makes you think. If you ever set up anything, that's perspective. And they throw you things that make you think, and it makes it even better. You threw a couple things out there. It's like, I wish I would have wrote that.
Right.
Yeah. But wow, what a great perspective for people out there that are maybe you guys have totally different paths, but it's the same thing.
I think that's the big thing is that the reason why it's Julia West Kingdom. I've been quietly sitting here the whole time, but I've told you a million times that I like watching the show. Because I think it's a lot of the stuff you guys discuss is applicable
to other things, you know, especially in my life as an artisan, as a Laurel, as a peer. All these cars coming by all of a sudden.
I know.
But I think that this is a universal thing in a lot of ways. So it's useful to hear about it, though, even if it's just focused on this particular activity that you all do. And I do try to encourage non-fighters to watch this because I do think it is it's worthwhile. So thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
she's a fan.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I love you guys.
It's funny because Yodisha is, again, she did authorize, but it was more of a goal for her. But just late. She, but she's the same way. She's like, can I share this with my A&S folks? And you know, because it's like all of that same thing going through. And I think that's the important part is, again, we can share those experiences across the time.
And to add to that, I want to just because what? Oh. Well, I wanted to pop in with that is because I think in the SCA we tend to think of everything as siloed. You know, this is only for fighters, this is only for artists, this is only for service, it's only for rapier, it's only now for archery. Now we've got these big silos now that are the peerages. And in reality, I think that a lot of the things that everyone is sort of a universal experience of how we play the game, how we interact with each other in the SCA. There's a lot that it's very much across the board similar. Even if the flavor is different, it's the same fundamentals or the same baseline.
Same stock.
Same stock, different spice, you know?
But yeah, the path to knighthood involves physical prowess. The path to being knightly doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
And that's the
I would agree on that.
That's the soundbite.
That's a soundbite. That's a good one. That's a good soundbite.
If I may,
Good.
one of the biggest tools I use in coming up and becoming a better fighter and better teacher, trainer across the board was my wife. My wife knows nothing about fighting and is not interested in it at all, right? But it means that from her, whenever I ask her what she saw, I'm getting that pure essence. If I spoke to any of you about a fight that I had, you would tell me, oh, your foot was a little off here, this, and then we would break it down. She gives me that emotional, that just didn't feel right. There's something wrong. You didn't seem like you were comfortable, right? And so I really challenge people to have that trusted people that are outside of your art, outside of what you do, to give you that raw, I don't have an idea of what you're trying to do, but I can tell you right now, it looks weird, right? And then you can take that back and go, what was going on with me? What was going on, right? So that's why I find that having non-fighters in discussions is hyper important, right? So
I don't know what you were doing, but you were doing it wrong.
yeah, no.
Yeah, it seemed really wrong.
I
Yeah.
have asked her, and she just looked at me one time and went, ooh. And I was like, oh, okay, there's a major redraw there, right?
I think actually one of the most important things is sometimes we look at ourselves and we have pressure on ourselves. And when you come off and it's like, you sure that wasn't good? Because that's what they see.
Yep.
And you're there for them. And then that day, and you're talking about a relook back inside, I think, you know, you can have another fighter say, you sure that wasn't good? And then you're going to be like, who are you?
Right.
But boy, when you're fighting for somebody, that's an eye opener a little bit. You got to self-internalize that look, and you'll be thinking about it and asking. Sometimes it's like, is that better? And I think that's important. It's a good place to be. Alicia, again, because you love the show. I think she just wanted to make a point that as some people get older, or they lose some of those. Great example once again. I use a plastic shield now. I hate it. I make them for my group because they're very easy to get in, they're very easy to maintain, and they can hold them a long time. So they get to do more fighting and have a lot more fun. At some point, it gets to a point where they realize that it's so light that shots are going through it.
Right.
Right? Unfortunately, the way my shoulder is built now, I get cramps very quickly, and I'm using a very ugly shield that's all plastic, and I really haven't quite found what I was going to go to But sometimes you have to get those people a break too, right? So I think, you were lucky enough. You're like, I got a decent job. I have some savings now, and
COVID,
right?
Couldn't fight for 2 years. I built a kid.
There you go. Right, that works for you.
Yeah.
So and she just wanted to make sure that people know that be careful. If somebody's wearing blue plastic, it may not just be because they're trying to they're trying to lighten everything up and get that advantage, and maybe because they have to. And then you can help them make it look better.
But I also think that the SCA in general, this is a little bit off topic, but the SCA in general went away from making things out of plastic, making it easier for people to get started. And now we're expecting people to come up with these beautiful suits that cost so much.
That $1,500 helmet entry point?
Yeah. So if we just start accepting that some people will use plastic in general, and then we can go ahead and try to make everything look better from there, I think it's going to help more people get into the game as well.
Yeah, that threshold has gotten higher.
Oh,
for sure.
please no.
I've seen people make carpet that you couldn't tell was carpet.
Yeah.
It was all covered and hedged and everything else.
Inside, you can tell.
That's it, you can't. So.
Boy, hopefully it didn't smoke before you got the carpet, right?
Only one. I only wore it once.
I wore it once as well. It worked actually surprisingly well. By the way,
almost too well.
Carpet's really good armor.
I think I do have a question for the older knights. What do you think would be the piece that would be the nail in the coffin, so to speak? That you would look at it and be like, all right, I'm done fighting. I can accept this and I'm done. Is it age? Is it something giving out? What do you think would be a definitive
I'll try. So, number one would be my healthcare provider telling me you can't play this game anymore. That's seriously. So that's first and foremost and the most obvious one. The second one would be my wife telling me, you go off and you do these things, and I'm actually fearful that you are not going to come back, or you're going to come back much different than you went. And so those two things would be deal breakers, just instant deal breakers. Beyond that, I think it would be just pain, right? Chronic pain that you can't get away from, that you take to the field, that you take from the field. It gets worse when you're on the field, and you're medicating to try to cover it, and we all do that to some extent, but I don't know what that threshold is. It sounds like Sobranos has experienced a lot more of it than I have, but I mean, with my shoulders, it's still super not good. But it would be a pain, like how much joy am I actually getting if I'm experiencing all this pain, and with the pain, especially in shoulders, have a weakness, so then you can't even really play the game the way you want to play the game, which can be frustrating. But those would be the main things for me.
I would have to completely agree with your second point. Right? If my significant other goes, I'm not comfortable with you doing this anymore, there's my help.
Yeah.
The other for me is very simple. Am I a detriment to my opponent's safety? Right? To their mental well-being, are they worried that something's going to happen when we fight, that they're going to have to carry that luggage? Right? At that point, I'm like, I'm not going to take a chance to hit them. I have fought people before that I'm like, I don't feel comfortable here because I feel if I hit you one time wrong, right, I have now injured you forever. And I won't put that on somebody. So that's a hard cutoff for me, is at that point. So those are the two things whenever I think about it. One, if the boss tells me to give it up, it's gone. Two, if I'm a detriment to anybody else's joy, I'm out.
And personally, I think those are great answers. I hope at some point I can make the right one, the right answer myself. But this is the conversation I like hearing. At some point, I'm going to have to. I'm a very stubborn person, so.
My grandfather Knight had to retire from fighting, and it was just because of the pain and stuff. His recovery was so long after each time he did a big war or something that basically he was a wreck for a week, and he just said he had to stop. And I said, do you miss it? And he says every day.
Every day.
That will come though.
Yeah.
I agree with all those, and Bronis, I'm similarly stubborn along with the Peter Pan complex, so like I'll let you know when I decide.
Yeah, I haven't found it yet.
I have no idea what it's going to feel like or how I'm going to make that decision, but it will probably come upon me suddenly, and I hope it's not in a dangerous way, but at some point I'm going to say, no, I can't do this. But I'm going to keep going until I can.
So I think all of us have an athletic body by now. We're used to actually being out and physically active, and when you stop moving, it's amazing how fast everything in the body loses. So I think being able to be active as long as you can, being able to, have something to contribute yourself to, as long as your ego can allow you to not have to worry about being at a certain level. If you can just go out there and participate and have fun, that's great. So I'm not sure what it would look like. I'm not ready. I've had it taken away from me before, and I'm not ready to just give it up. Now that I can, every day is more precious because I can come out here and do it. And at some point it will happen that we're not able to. We just have to accept that. I'm not sure what that would be.
But honestly, I mean, that's
Go ahead, do it for
that's why I mentioned the thing that I had a conversation with my guys about when I was about 60. I counted the number of wars and I counted the number of years, and we don't know when we're dying. Right, something catastrophic could happen, or we could just kind of get ground into the into the dirt. But at some point, we're going to be done, right? Mm-hmm. And I just threw the arbitrary dart of saying 70 years old, and then counted the number of wars, and it allowed me to have a better appreciation for those days of joy that I am still able to. Each one is so precious, right? So incredibly precious. And so I think as we get older, I think since we don't know what the X factor of when we're going to stop, I think it's critical that we take a step back and go, what's a reasonable amount of time, and then really try to put what you can into those remaining days. And if you're lucky, maybe I'll fight till I'm 80. Yeah, I think so. But at least from now to 70, I will have done everything that I could have done to make sure that I gave back as much as I could, but also experienced the joy of being on the field and all of those things.
I mean, it is possible. James Graham's still fighting, and he's in the side.
I fought him this week.
Yeah, still putting arm around.
He's got to be like
every new guy
73 now, I think. Is that what he is? 73?
Yeah. Because it's like, this is an opportunity to fight a man whose name is you, right?
Yeah, I fought him on his
70th
birthday week, and also his 50th anniversary of his ducal.
Yeah,
I was like, we did a
50th anniversary of his ducal.
Yeah, we did a challenge at the barrier.
Yeah, we're lucky. I actually have he's not a knight. In fact, and I will tell you, I've seen him fight for 30 plus years. He is at 70, I think, 74, 75. He has better footwork now than he ever had.
He's got it, right?
Practice basically every week.
Every week he's at practice.
Damn, that's awesome. Inspiration right there.
To draw an analogy, and apart from the medical issues that we may or may not face, we have the luxury of making choices.
Yeah.
Like, if you make a comparison, let's say, tackle football, right? At some point, as a high school football player, you will play your last game. Mm-hmm. And some will go on to college. And at some point, those college students will play their last game. And then some will go on to the NFL, and at some point, they will play their last game. We mostly, God forbid something else, dictates the circumstance, but mostly we get to choose when we fight our last battle or we fight our last tournament, and that's a blessing.
I think what you did is very much like what I did, and thank you for saying the way you said it. But by giving yourself that, hey, I am not going to be the best fighter on the field, by saying that, then we can appreciate what we have. And then you don't have to grind on being that thing. By saying, I may not be out here all the time. And I may only be here another 10 years. I'm okay. This is, you kind of say, there is an end now. I'm not pushing it off. I'm not grinding my body to try to keep up with the young guy. and going through pain and recovery not nearly as fast. And now you're like, you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. And you know, you may find that you like grinding a little bit, but you find it's like, I'm not going to grind this hard. Or I'm going to drop down, I'm going to do, you know, I'm going to do 10-pound weights instead of 100-pound weights. You know, that kind of thing. But I felt much better when I'm like, I will never be as good as I was.
It's okay, right? Today is where you are.
Yeah.
There's the statistic for like muscle mass loss after 30.
Oh man,
is
why are you going there?
It's important to know, right? If you don't do physical activity, it decreases by 10% every decade after 30.
Yeah.
But if you work out, and that's like 2-3 times a week, right?
Yeah.
And it could be half hour to an hour, right? Roughly, whatever the standard is that goes down to 5%, which is huge over 40 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's 20% more than what you would have had.
Yeah, and I felt that even I was unfortunately sick for about a month and some. I couldn't do a lot. And I usually, even when I'm sick and stuff, I usually at least show up and participate mentally and stuff. But it was bad. You know, I had some hospital in there. I will tell you, when I got out, I'm like, I feel like I just lost 6 months of working out, of strength. You know, I'm still trying to get it back, and you know, it's interesting. It does go fast.
Thorfinn always had a saying that I really loved, which is
Suck less.
So Thorfinn always had a saying, which was listen to your body. And I just want to like comment in general that I've seen a lot more concern, I think, from the Shiv and from heavy fighters in general, of listening to your body and not pushing yourself. Because I grew up in the SCA while you, pointing out Thorfinn and Fabian, were the young knights that were getting knighted. And I was a young teenager looking at this, and I was watching people in my age group growing up watching you guys breaking themselves. By the time they were like 40, they were having to have major back surgery, shoulders replaced, knees, everything. And you're really lucky when physically you're able to do this, as long as you're able to do it without serious injury. That is a quirk of genetics and fate.
It is.
But I am seeing more and more now the idea of encouraging fighters to listen to their body, not push it to the point of permanently injuring themselves. And I'm hoping that that's a thing that's going to continue. And I'd actually be curious how you, older knights and the younger, you two sitting here, how do you see that? And how do you see yourselves helping people?
So, I think that's a great segue into what I've been thinking about or wanting to share. So, Duke Connor has a practice that we have started adopting and using foam weapons. So it's a lot less wear and tear on the body. I know a lot of the steel fighting community that was doing battle nations and stuff. Some of the high-end teams were doing foam fighting every week because there was less wear and tear on their bodies and their equipment and everything. And so we're able to go out there and go full speed and not have to have full armor. We can get a lot out of the practice. I think that's a way for a lot of us to extend, the ability for us to be out of practices, because at a certain age we can't be in armor 4 times a week anymore and continue to do those. But we can go out there and still do this kind of training. And I think that if we possibly started encouraging this training earlier on, that it'd be a longer, path for people.
What we were talking about earlier, you mentioned just beat until you become good at this. When we started, that's how we did practice. Practice was you went to practice and you'd fight 2 or 3 days a week as hard as you could, full speed, full contact, almost no real thought on training other people. There were some people that would show you how to throw a blow or something like that, but it wasn't like taught like a martial art. And now you're seeing a lot of things where I started doing it independently as well. I found out he was doing it as golf tube and like things like this to make sure that we can do these techniques, learn the techniques, but not have the potential injury that knocks you out of practice for 4 or 5 weeks because of, you're going at it so hard. And I think this is a great resource. I wish we would have had this 30 years ago, but that wasn't even a thing, you know.
There's a lot of this strain on our
Yes,
joints.
exactly. Longevity of the fighter is going to be much different.
I don't want to get away from your question.
No. That's perfectly, in line, I think, with what my question was really about, which is that the culture change between when you guys were young and up and coming, and it was you just get beat to a pulp until you figure it out, and that's how you get good. And that really, it caused a lot of damage. You guys are very lucky that you've been able to do this as long as you have, and you're still doing it. But it's broken a lot of other people in between. So the question I just go back to then is like the culture shift of that mentality to the listen to your body, take the time off if you're injured to heal, wear protective gear, use the lighter foam weapons when you're training so you don't hurt yourself or somebody else. Like, do you all see that as a shift that's happening?
I think even bigger on that is I think we have more, not that we didn't have trust back then, but I think we didn't care enough.
Yeah.
And I think trust.
Yeah.
We're seeing that nowadays when you guys go and fight, right, you trust people not to really hurt you.
Yeah.
Right? More than, for most part, right? Hopefully it's a lot of people. So when you're training, now I'm not talking about actually like doing a melee or whatever, things happen. But when you're training with somebody, for the most part, if you guys are fighting, you trust them not to necessarily blast you when he could. Right? Yep. Back in our day, and really pointed, we took a beating. And the good part about that is back in our day, we would look at it and it's like, stop being weak.
Yeah. No, I know, it was really dumb. It was really dumb.
There's a certain amount of leadership by example, because I work with Bronze a lot, even though we're 3 hours apart. How many replacement parts? Right. So there's things that he does that I will not do, because I've learned. That's part of wisdom is learning from other people's activities and doing what not doing what they do because. And there's a reason why Bronis was in a position where he could win a crown whenever he wanted to, and I still 15 years later I'm going to get started on working on my second one. So it's again we're all different. So listening to your body is important.
Before we go back, that's your question.
Going back to Tulia's question, I've been blessed in the fact that in this sport I have taken very little major injuries. Right. I don't know if I'm that genetic thing or anything else like that, but I also came from a house and from a night that was knighted AS-16s, right? And we would make fun of each other all the time about, I didn't think you were going to come back this week. I didn't think you survived last week, right? But it was that transition from Thorfinn and Fabe and Connor. I was in that next group, right, where we would have that toxic masculinity, and it was still there, but the beginning of the stopping it started, right? Yeah. And we had started with the golf tubes. I can remember getting hit here in February in Sacramento and having it feel like it was going to break off because we had just started with golf tubes. And taking that transition. I think major things that will need to happen is we need to get rid of the toxic masculinity idea, right? I've even gone to, for myself and my practices, we don't talk about wins and losses. In the kingdom that I live in, it is very wins and loss based culture. It's W's and L's. Right? When at the practices that I'm at and that I'm involved in, we talk about people that have granted victory and those that have been granted, right? And that's a different mentality, it's a different mindset, right? And it takes that away and allows the training to happen. So I believe that curve has started and is well on its way if we just let it develop and get out of it. And actively fight against the older style that are still out there. I run across these guys all the time. They're just like, well, you just need to hit them harder. I'm like, no, you don't. Right? What you need to do is train and work and figure out and listen. Let that person listen to their body.
Yeah.
So we were talking about listening to our bodies and stuff. I remember watching Sir Gerson Haley come in before he was knighted. He started fighting when he was, I think, in his 50s.
Yeah, he was knighted at like 54 or something like that.
When he was knighted later on, and like, oh my God, I'm going to believe that shit. But I remember being a younger fighter going, you know what? If I want to be able to fight when I'm his age, I need to start listening to my body more. I'm able to throw some of these shots in a tournament, and they're good for a kill or two in a tournament, but I only can throw them once or twice because of the strain he puts on my joints. I'm like, oh my God, how stupid is that? And so I started transitioning into only doing things that were smooth and fluid and were ergonomic, and that didn't take as toll on my joints. And I think that really helped elongate my career. Because when I'm fighting, I don't feel any strain on any of the joints. There's things that happen, they don't have the good mechanics behind it. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we can do, is when we're seeing people doing things that can be putting extra strain on the body, is just trying to help them find ways of doing that without putting that undue strain on it.
I'd like to hear the young guys actually. Yeah.
Hey, there's one.
Yeah. So, speaking of the, teaching people to not do things that put strain on their bodies, one of the things that I have appreciated in our area with training and that I'm trying to do for others is not insisting on like this specific technique is the only way you can do this, and actually believing people when they say my wrist just doesn't bend that way, or like this hurts my hip every time I do it, and instead of just insisting, well, you must be wrong, and trying to make them do it exactly the same way I do it or exactly the same way he does it, we go, let's step back and investigate and figure out why this hurts you, or if in fact it's just your wrist doesn't go that way, your arm doesn't move that way for whatever reason, you're not flexible enough, you're whatever, how can we adapt this technique, or look around and who has a different technique for this that might work with what your body is doing. And so that has helped me and a lot of people in our area not just destroy ourselves trying to do stuff that's never going to work.
What is it called when you're working out and they find a different way for you to do it? You can't do this technique.
Modification. Yeah.
There's always modifications that can be done.
Yeah. Every person's a unique machine, right? You can't say this machine works exactly like that machine. And so you have to hope you can find a fundamental element of each technique that is universal, right? And so that way, every single person's going to move slightly different, and their bodies are just designed differently.
Your shoulder doesn't go, or your hip won't twist that way, or your ankle hurts when you step on it. Maybe we need to change your feet. Yeah. Maybe we need to, instead of trying to cross over, we need to step sideways and throw that, and you can tweak everything.
Absolutely. The older school that I came out of was very bad about it.
Right? Oh, terrible, yeah. You got to do it that way.
This is how you do it, right? You stand in this style, and this is all you did, right? This is the flat snapper. There's nothing else in the world that can be a flat snapper, get the sword to that point. It's this one thing. And if you can't do that, we're going to grab you. I've literally had knights and fighters for time grab me and force my body into uncomfortable positions as a guy at the time that was well over 300 pounds, 350 pounds, and go, you've got to do this. And I'm like, I have mass in the way. And they're like, well, you just figure it out. And that was all training was.
Yeah. Speaking to what Tulia said, I for our practices, we added in group stretching. We all get together and get in a circle, and each person picks a different type of stretching exercise we do now. And we're even adding in like calisthenics and things where people are doing, we're doing jumping jacks together to get the blood going, and skipping drills and things like that, just to make sure that we're actually, getting the body going, getting the fluids to your joints. But the other thing that is nice about this is we talked about changing fighter practices, right? And they're not like they used to be. And after COVID, I kind of went through a thought process like, what would I change if I could just start over again? And so I've had a lot of up and coming or younger or even brand new fighters coming to these practices, and they're learning this as the way it's always been. So now when they're going off to their home practices, they're taking this with them, and it's spreading like a disease. Right? I'm slowly tricking everyone into doing all the things to save themselves. Yay! but it's bleeding out there, and I love that idea that the next generation of fighters may think that's the way it always was, and that would be great.
So we're a little around 50 minutes after we started, a little bit late, but I want to give everybody an opportunity to. You can talk about this experience here. You can talk about an experience you had, or something that we all probably had something we want to say out of all of this conversation. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to start with youngest to the folks that would like to go later. So once again,
gotta pick on you.
Something to share.
I mean, what would you say out of this episode? And there was a lot of good topics, right? Ultimately, the topic was knighthood isn't the end.
Right.
So if it's, maybe something you learned, something you hadn't thought about that you really want to think more about.
I mean, the journey itself is the fun, right? It is not the destination. and that journey is hopefully death, right? That is the end. That's the final. Yeah. So like the journey is the whole thing. Being knighted is just kind of somewhere in between.
Yeah, I think that's 100% true. So if I could give a single piece of advice for someone on the path in regards to this, I would say keep the fun. And what I mean by that is focus on the things that you enjoy and kind of avoid burnout. And that's going to carry you through knighthood is just kind of a little break point rather than struggling to do exactly what you think is expected of you to hit that break point. Because there's stuff that goes beyond that.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more on that scenario. You're all young.
Yep. I guess I'm gonna sneakily do two things. One is, if we're giving advice to like unbelts on this path, I say listen to this conversation and start right now making sure you have goals past knighthood. Look further, find what it is, and start working on that now so that you don't get stuck being aimless and confused when you're elevated and don't know what to do next. And then from my end, as the newer knight, what I appreciated out of this conversation was hearing from all of y'all your experiences of like, no, it took a really long time to feel comfortable and feel like I knew what I was doing, because I expected to not feel comfortable right after it happened, and a year later when I'm still kind of deer in headlights a little bit, it's nice to know that that's not unusual and that it will get better.
All right. I'm not even going to try to guess who's next, so I'm still leaving you for the end.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to knighthood. If you think of it as a byproduct and not an end goal, I'm wondering if that helps some with the burnout. And it's a lot of people that just fade away once they get knighted, because once they've attained their goal, what else is there? It's time to do something else.
Yeah.
Think of it as a byproduct.
Yeah, I think that's, I love that. Aha! Here. I will thank our folks. We have other folks in the back that are very experienced. Sibrid, I just want to say thank you for helping me collect some of that questions and things.
So I'm Duke Connor. One of the things that I have suggest is somebody help get you to where you are. Be that for somebody else.
Yeah. No, that's super important. Super important. I'm gonna skip you because you're the host. You get to be the real end. You're coming.
We've heard this a few times, and I completely agree with it. The path to and through knighthood is a journey, and what I love to tell people is, one, remember it's nobody else's journey but yours. Take a longest path as you want. You don't have to run a straight line. Every once in a while, stop and smell the roses. You can get back on the path. It doesn't matter if it takes you a year, or 3 years, or 5 years, or 15 years like it took me, right? That was mine. Don't judge yours by someone else's.
That's great. All you, Rutger.
Well, for me, the important thing is to remember that it's all about performance, not results. You don't need to be better than the next person. You need to be better than you were yesterday, or whatever. And you have to define that for yourself, which is in itself a challenge. But the other part of that is don't be afraid to change, because change will be imposed upon you, and you're going to have to deal with it. Whether it's your body changing, whether it's the world changing, or the people around you changing, in whatever way, you have to maintain that kind of flexibility and you internalize it, adapt to it, and grow from it.
If it's going to be a soundbite, my soundbite would be take a step back. And whatever it is that you're striving to do, that you are struggling to do, whether that's achieve knighthood or if you've achieved the accolade and you're trying to sort out how to get comfortable in a new role, take a step back and think about kind of the broader perspective of aspiring to nobility and
I do that within the context of the sins and the virtues because that works for me. I know that doesn't work for some people, but it makes it really easy for me when I say I really don't want to do that thing, and I take a step back and I go, why don't I want to do that thing? Because I'm kind of embarrassed. Oh, that's pride. Oh, I'm striving for knighthood. I have to confront that, and I have to find the courage to go and do that. So remember to take a step back and kind of think more broadly about your trajectory as a human being, not just in this game or as a fighter. Your trajectory as a human being as you aspire to live good.
So if I could just give a second one.
Good.
So when you're training or going to practice anything else, I think it is super important just to put your ego on a shelf and not worry about the wins and losses, the W's and L's or anything else. But it gives you the freedom to go ahead and try things that are different and really explore options and not just go ahead and repeat the same thing over and over.
Nobody wins practice.
Is that?
Nobody wins
practice.
Correct.
I'll go ahead and just real quick, Yolisha again, and I like this from her, it's not necessarily a question. And she stated it as a question, but this is more of a point. She asked if there's a rule that you need to fight to remain a knight. And then her comment there, there's more to knighthood than fighting. And I think you've made that over and over and over again, which I think is super important. I think for everyone out there that may be at the end and struggling, there is more to still having your belt, even if you can't fight. And you just have to find that place you fit. I think that's the important part.
We're going to wrap it up?
Yeah.
First, I want to say thanks to everybody that took their afternoon time to come out and sit with us and talk about this topic. Everyone out there that's listening, thank you all for tuning in. I guess the one thing I'd say from this discussion that if I wanted to keep it short would be the goal isn't knighthood, it's to be knightly. And so that should be your end goal. Is just be knightly. And that will help you along the path in so many different ways. Thanks from Pennsic, and we're going to go out and enjoy the rest of our shopping and hanging out day. And then, but thanks, folks. I really appreciate you guys. Keep rock and rolling your hearts, and